Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wild Digest. I am Scott Woodard, and I am your host here on BookTube. So, since this is my very first video, I thought we should start things off, as most people do, with the legendary BookTube Newbie Tag. So, I've got the file open in front of me here, so excuse my eye line when it drops down occasionally. So, we'll just go through this 10 points. We'll see where that spins off, and we'll talk about a variety of things. I'll try to keep this one just a few minutes, and we'll kick things off with additional updated content down the line. But starting with the BookTube newbie tag, question number one: why did you start this channel? All right, well, I'm an avid reader. Duh. I have been for most of my life. I'm also an LA-based creator, so I have a very extensive background in film and TV and radio production. And I also love performance, so I have lots of cool stuff that I can bring forward for the channel that I hope you'll enjoy. I'm also hoping to reach out and connect with lots of amazing new people here. I've already gotten to know a lot of you through the comments and comment sections of your various channels, and in a few cases, those of you who offer, or some of you who offer paid content, I'm already putting a few shekels into your coffers. So I've already met some great people, and looking forward to meeting even more. So that is number one. Number two, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? Well, I read for pleasure, obviously. Why else would I do this? I also collect certain books, and I'm going to be excited to talk about that kind of stuff. We'll go into genres and things in a little bit. But on top of that, I'm also a published and produced writer and playwright and author, whatever. I'm and a tabletop game designer, and we'll talk about that as well. I worked as a writer producer for Warner Brothers for several years, and then Disney after that. So that's kind of some fun stuff I can talk about. As I mentioned, I'm a tabletop role playing game designer. And so I wrote The Sixth Gun, which is based on a comic book published by Oni Press. I wrote the role playing game for that. I wrote the official Flash Gordon role playing game for Pinnacle Entertainment Group. Last year, my most recent game, Pine Box Middle School, where you play middle schoolers fighting horrors on the streets of a fictional town called Pine Box, Texas. That particular game was nominated for an Annie Award, which is effectively the most prestigious award in the gaming industry. So I've done a lot of stuff with that. I've written audio adventures for Doctor Who and Dark Shadows. I'm one of very, very few American writers to have written Big Finish audios, who have written officially licensed Doctor Who. So we can talk a little bit about that. And then going back to role playing games, I also have a very extensive and rather large collection of tabletop role playing game books and box sets and things going way back to the 70s. So I'm looking forward to talking about some of those in future episodes. A lot of stuff will tie in very nicely. For example, next month, and of course it's the 31st of July as I record this, next month is August. I will not be doing Garbaugust. Sorry, Criminale. I'm going to be actually jumping on the Book Trek bandwagon. And so I'm hoping to read some Star Trek books. But at the same time, as I'm talking about some Star Trek novels, I can also talk about Star Trek role playing games because there's a pretty extensive history about that stuff as well. And I'm actually playing in a campaign right now using Star Trek Adventures, which is the most recent Star Trek role playing game. So all sorts of fun, convoluted, and adjacent, literary book adjacent stuff that I can talk about in future episodes. So there'll be a lot of fun things to talk about: writing, collecting, reading, games, you name it. I will try to bring it to this channel. So, whew, that was convoluted. Okay, number three. What are you most excited for about this channel? About this new channel? Well, a few years ago, I mean, like 10 years ago, I was the producer and co-host of several pop culture podcasts. There were four shows that we did, One was about Doctor Who, one was about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, one was sort of a generic pop culture show, and the other one was all about zombies and horror in film and literature. And by the end of that, my co-host and I had produced close to 200 episodes, and these were great shows. I mean, we interviewed screenwriters and film directors and actors and composers, and the list goes on and on. I'm slowly starting to put a lot of those episodes on YouTube, and I'll link to some of those, or even devote an episode to talking about some of those in the future, so that you can maybe check them out. Getting some gardening noise in the background now, but I'm just going to leave it in. Hopefully, it's not too loud. So doing those podcasts, I really, really enjoyed that aspect of producing content for online and to share with everybody, and I miss that. And I'm hoping that this BookTube channel sort of scratches that itch, and I can start creating content along those lines again. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I miss producing that kind of content, and I miss producing it on a regular basis. So fingers crossed that we'll be able to do the same thing for this channel. So that's number 3. Number 4, why do you love reading? It's kind of an odd question. It's like, why do you like eating? Why do you like breathing? Um, for me, I always have found reading to be such a pure thing. I mean, it's just you, it's and the book and your imagination. Really, that's all you need. And you can do it anywhere. I don't know. I think there's something fascinating and almost mystical about reading in that regard. If you think about it, and I've heard this bandied about before, but reading is the closest thing we have in many ways to a time machine, because you are reading the words and the ideas set down on that page when the author originally put them. And so for me, I find that fascinating. Like, just the idea that I could read something from ancient Greece or something from the 1940s or something written, yesterday, and get a little hint of what life was like for the creator of that content. So I don't know. I find it almost magical. Reading is just amazing. I love reading for pleasure, and I really don't know if I've ever gone a day without it. So, um, right, number 5. What book or series got you into reading? Uh, this is a tricky one. Like a lot of you, I started reading when I was really young, when I was a kid. And in fact, and I think I addressed this in an upcoming question, but my parents more or less forced me to start reading when I was really young. But I think the first series that I was consciously seeking out and probably purchasing, thanks to like the Scholastic Book Fair that used to come to our school, was Encyclopedia Brown. Those that series, crime series for kids. I think I read a lot of Encyclopedia Brown when I was a kid, and so I would say that was probably my first series. Now, the first book that I could probably cite, which it just because it just lingers here, would have been Ray Bradbury's S's for Space, which is a short story collection. If you're not familiar with it, there's some great stuff in that book. But that volume was in my elementary school library, and I checked it out blindly and read these stories and just immediately fell in love with them. So S is for Space. Yeah, that was it's I vividly recall where that book was and on which shelf and in which part of the library. And then it was elementary school, so I discovered the Heinlein juveniles, anyway, the ours are now, what was it, have Spacesuit World Travel, that was one of them. So I read those and just started to eat up a lot of other science fiction, and I was fortunate as well because my parents both had a pretty decent library in the house. My dad had his focus was science fiction, and my mother she had some horror and contemporary fiction. So I kind of got the horror and the SF from them, and I read a lot of the books out of my dad's library, and quite clearly became more enamored of the science fiction end of things than anything else. So that's pretty much where I got started. Number 6. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Well, I've kind of already done that. I've been watching, just ingesting a lot of BookTube videos over the last several months in preparation for this. And I think in the process, I have already reached out to so many of my favorites and posted comments and questions under their videos. So, some of my favorites I've already, conversed with Michael K. Vaughan and Criminale and Roy of Roy Reads Anything and Outlaw Bookseller and Jules Burt and all these other guys, Steve Donahue. Um, I've had correspondence with them for the last few months, sort of leading up to the launch of this Frankensteinian thing. And so, yeah, I've already opened that dialogue, and I certainly look forward to talking more with them and getting on the same page with as they are, especially in regards to like the reading events, because I think that's one way that we can all sort of cross paths and support each other with questions and comments. Number 7, what challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I'm sure it's the exact same challenges that everyone else faces and has to overcome. Coming up with good content, finding time to shoot that content, shoot those videos, editing and uploading. I mean, it's a whole process, and also doing things to improve your channel on a regular basis. I think that's going to be important as well. Getting the word out and building my audience obviously is a very important. It's kind of frustrating because the name of this channel, The Wild Digest, I get from my blog, which is also called The Wild Digest, and that the blog is a little bit more loosey goosey when in regards to content. But I've been writing in that for over a year now, fairly regularly, and posting what I think is some pretty good content. And I've been sharing it and posting it on all my socials, but as of like the last time I checked, I think I have 2 followers. I know people are reading it because I get follow-up comments and questions and things like that. But just to get that audience that's going to stick around and look forward to future posts, I think that's going to be a lot of hard work. And in a weird way, I'm looking forward to it because I love marketing and that's what I do as a copywriter, which is another job that I do. But so yeah, that'll be a lot of fun and but a challenge, and I think it's something that I'm looking forward to overcoming. And I also don't think that I'm going to be the kind of person that will just disappear if I don't get the numbers, after a month or two. Don't worry, I'm gonna try to stick around as much as I can. I'm gonna try to post as much content as I can that's good, and so I'll be here, and we'll see what happens. Number 8. This kind of goes back. When did you start reading? I said, I have a note here. See question 5. Again, my parents really started me reading when I was extremely young. The story goes that they would sit me on their knee and have me read ads in newspapers and Sears catalogs and things like that. So I was a pretty advanced reader when I finally got into school, but that's where it all started. Number 9. Where do you read? Uh, I I tend to do most of my reading in bed before I drift off, which is good and bad because sometimes reading does make you drift off. But that's usually the one place where I know I can just turn on the light, relax, and read, um, and it doesn't bother my wife, so that's fine. If I do work from home, so if I do run out to grab lunch or something like that, I always have a book in tow and we have a comfortable sofa and on certain days, and then also if the weather is particularly cooperative, we have a really nice balcony and I can sit out there and get some reading in, so kind of bounce around, but I don't go very far without having a book in my hand. Number 10. This is technically the last one. No, it is the last one. What kind of books do you like to read? And I sort of mentioned this at the very top. So for the most part, I prefer vintage science fiction, fantasy, horror, some mystery, and westerns. So all the genre stuff, really. I avoid a lot of contemporary fiction, not all, but a lot, because I find so much of it to be certainly in the fantasy realm. Uh, Wickedly bloated. I just do not understand these 5, 6, 7, 800 page books in series that run 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 books long. I don't have the patience for it. I like to read short, sweet, snappy stuff. Like, I don't know, most of the stuff that was written up to maybe sort of the mid '80s. That's, I think, where they started to go to realize that they could just write whatever they wanted, and if it was successful, the publisher wasn't going to say no. It's one of the reasons why I don't read a lot of Stephen King. Certainly, the later Stephen King stuff. He just goes. The books are just too big. It's a silly thing to say, but yeah, I lose patience with gigantic books because I start to sort of it fades out, and I want to move on to something else. So if I can grab a vintage '70s DAW paperback and know it's going to run no more than say like 250 pages or something like that, that is ideal for me. And I've read a lot of books in recent months that have been no more than 150 pages or 175 pages, and they're great because I love being able to read high volume, um, but also just gripping, quick, fast paced stories. I mean, that's my favorite kind of stuff to read. But like I said, it's not like it's a be all end all. I do have contemporary fiction on my shelves, and I do dip into some stuff that's been written in the last few years, no question. But if you look at my shelves, and I will certainly show you more of that down the line, um, you're going to see a lot more vintage paperbacks. So that's what I like to read. So that's it. That is the BookTube Newbie Tag. And I think that covers everything. Yeah, I'll certainly share a lot more down the line as I do more of these episodes. But that should get us up and running. And in the next episode, our next installment, we are wrapping up Rocket Summer as I record this. It's the as I said the 31st of July, 2025, and that means Rocket Summer is coming to a close. And I'll probably do sort of a Rocket Summer wrap up for my the stuff that I read. I'd also like to do a little bit of a slip back to June because I did June on the Range this year and read quite a few westerns, and so it'd be fun to talk about those and show you some of the few dozen westerns that I've acquired since the start of this year. And then, like I say, we'll get into some role playing game stuff, and I'm doing Book Trek starting tomorrow, so there'll be some Star Trek in the future. Lots of cool stuff happening, and lots of stuff to talk about. And I'm really looking forward to doing more of this. And I will see you very soon. So thanks for watching. Take care.